Welcome to All About Math series.
My name is Savannah, and in this video, we will be discussing domain and interval notation. The domain refers to the independent variables or the x variables in an expression, equation, or graph. When discussing the domain, we will use brackets when we see a less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, unequal sign, or a completely shaded dot on your graph. We will use parentheses when we have less than or greater than with no equal signs, a cannot equal to, an open, non-shaded circle on your graph, or some infinity symbols. This is the graph of a basic linear function, and it is notated as x to the first power, but that first power is usually invisible. Because we are discussing the domain, that means we are looking at our x-axis, which is just a number line that begins at negative infinity and ends at positive infinity. So these graphs is kind of like we're walking through a park, and we can walk from negative infinity until positive infinity with no restrictions. So that means that our domain is from negative to positive infinity. And we are going to be using some parentheses because we do have those infinity symbols. This means that every single time you have x to an invisible 1 power, your domain is from negative to positive infinity. This is the graph of a basic quadratic function, and it is notated as x to the second power. We are once again discussing our domain, just looking at our x-axis, which is just a number line that once again begins at negative infinity and ends at positive infinity. If we're walking through this park, then we can walk from negative infinity until positive infinity. And that means our domain is from negative to positive infinity with some parentheses. So that means that every single time that you have x to the second power being your largest power, your domain will always be negative to positive infinity. This is the graph of a basic polynomial function, and this particular graph is notated as x to the third power. Once again, looking at our x-axis, which is just a number line that begins at negative infinity and ends at positive infinity, we can walk through this park from negative infinity until positive infinity, no restrictions, meaning our domain is from negative to positive infinity with some parenthesis sign. So every time that you have x to the third power, and that third power is your largest power or exponent, your domain is always from negative to positive infinity. This is a radical function, and it is notated as the square root of x, or x to the 1/2 power. They mean exactly the same thing. We are still discussing our domain, looking at our x-axis, which is just a number line that begins at negative infinity and ends at positive infinity. But this time, we can only begin walking through this park at 0, and we can walk forever towards positive infinity. So this means that our domain is from 0 to positive infinity. And because we do have a solid shaded dot at 0, we will get a bracket for that one number. This is the graph of a basic rational function. It is notated as 1 divided by x. Notice it is in 2 parts. But we are still discussing our domain, which is just our x-axis, or a number line that begins at negative infinity and ends at positive infinity. So let's go ahead and remember what fractions are. If I have 4 divided by 2, it is equal to 2 because 2 times 2 brings you right back to 4. But if you have 4 divided by 0, it is said to be undefined because nothing will multiply with 0 to bring you back to 4. So that means that our denominator, which in our case is an x, cannot equal to 0. Because once again, nothing will multiply with 0 to bring us back to our numerator. So in this case, if we're walking through this park, we can walk from negative infinity until 0. Then we will have to cross a bridge, and we can walk again from 0 to positive infinity. So our domain is from negative infinity until 0 with a little bridge in between, and 0 to infinity. We will use some parenthesis signs because we do have infinity symbols, and we also have a cannot equal symbol. Thanks for watching this video, and tune in for the next one. Have a good day.
It's a wrap for today's episode of All About Math series. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next All About Math episode.